Name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute, and I try to find people and highlight people who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. I just want to get into who Scott Bacci is. There's not a whole lot of athleticism involved in pool, but that game is all about execution. In order to get good at this, you have to really understand a lot of things. There's no way you're going to be able to do that or be a good coach if you can't communicate well, right? Japanese have this thing they call Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. You're never perfect, right? You aim for perfection. When I came out of the Navy, I was a little bit lost on what I was going to do. And I had found this company in McLean, Virginia, that was looking for civil engineers to go work in Afghanistan. I took that job and I went and worked in Afghanistan for a year, building parts of the military bases out there. Now I think I've been a superintendent for, 10 and a half years. And it takes time to become a good superintendent and experience. The better you get at being a superintendent and the more skills that you have, the more of a leader you can be on the project. Maintaining strength, as you get older is probably the most important thing you can do, because our bones deteriorate. To learn the value of saving money and, how to utilize money to make money for yourself. I think it's one of the first things that they should teach in high school and probably teach it every year. The name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute, and I try to find people and highlight people who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. I just want to get into who Scott Bacci is. There's not a whole lot of athleticism involved in pool, but that game is all about execution. In order to get good at this, you have to really understand a lot of things. There's no way you're going to be able to do that or be a good coach if you can't communicate well, right? Japanese have this thing they call Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. You're never perfect, right? You aim for perfection. When I came out of the Navy, I was a little bit lost on what I was going to do. And I had found this company in McLean, Virginia, that was looking for civil engineers to go work in Afghanistan. I took that job and I went and worked in Afghanistan for a year, building parts of the military bases out there. Now I think I've been a superintendent for, 10 and a half years. And it takes time to become a good superintendent and experience. The better you get at being a superintendent and the more skills that you have, the more of a leader you can be on the project. Maintaining strength, as you get older is probably the most important thing you can do, because our bones deteriorate. To learn the value of saving money and, how to utilize money to make money for yourself. I think it's one of the first things that they should teach in high school and probably teach it every year. What's going on, Scott? How are you doing today?
Good, great, good. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, man, happy to have you on the podcast. Again, the name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute. And I try to find people and highlight people who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. And I'm happy to have you on the podcast because when it comes to relentless execution, there ain't nobody I know better than you with that. So I just want to get into who Scott Bacci is and how did you come to be the person you are today. So let's just start back from when we met, right? We met at Citibank. You were at Turner. Still at Turner. I was at Tissue Construction. And we had a project that we were working on at Citibank. You saw in my screenshot on my laptop is a picture of Canelo, favorite boxing. Dig into the body and you're like, do you know about boxing? You like boxing? And I'm like, yeah, I like boxing. He's like, well, I used to box. And we just kicked it off from there. And it's just been a pleasure being working with you, man, because you don't stop. You don't stop. So
yeah, no, I as soon as I see something like that, similar interest, I got to jump on it.
Yeah.
You never know what can come from that conversation.
And from that conversation, not only did we start boxing together, and you trained it, the things that I know about boxing that a casual wouldn't know, right? Now that I watch boxing, I'm just seeing the game at a different vantage point than most casuals, just because of our training. And that also passed through to even lifting, like the way I lift, powerlifting, a lot of the stuff that we went to Mount Vernon barbell together and showed me how to, deal with the yoke, how to lift the stones, all these different things, and then you also still find time to be good at pool. You didn't get a chance to teach me how to play pool, but we'll
Well,
get
that's I would say out of all of those things,
yeah.
even by teaching you, it would probably require more time and commitment to get good at, because
Yeah.
that is the toughest thing I've ever found to really become like competitive at.
Mm.
It's a very, people don't realize how tough of a game it is mentally and execution wise.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I wouldn't even act like I know how to play pool well. I try a couple times, and like you said, it's even people who've played multiple sports, they always say that, especially if it's like between baseball, American football, and basketball, they're like baseball is still the hardest sport when it comes to like trying to hit that ball technique wise. So anything that's high on technique is usually really hard to master.
Yeah,
Right?
no, hitting a baseball is tough, but I would just say like baseball to me, like I played baseball a little bit as a kid, but it never really caught my attention too much because I don't know. I think other than hitting that baseball, there's not a whole lot of athleticism involved in the game, like like you get in football and other sports. There's not a whole lot of athleticism involved in pool, but that game is all about execution. Instead of a game of inches, pool is a game of millimeters. It really is. That's how precise you have to be.
What got you into pool? Like, what was the thing about pool that made you like want to pursue it?
Yeah, that's crazy question because when I was in college, it started out by I think I was because I went to a military college,
Yeah.
Virginia Military Institute, and I was probably in trouble. So when you get in trouble in school, you're not allowed to leave and go out on the weekends.
Right.
You're kind of stuck to the campus. That's the punishment they give you. And me and my buddy would spend our time going down to the pool table that they had by the bookstore, and that was really the first time I've ever played pool.
Mm.
And just hitting the balls and seeing the balls move and seeing like the reaction of two balls with the physics involved and how it came off at a different angle when you put certain spin on it. Like there's limitless amounts of things that can happen in that game, and that's what like drew me to it. Like in order to get good at this, you have to really understand a lot of things, and
Yeah.
not only understand them, because there's a lot of guys who understand pool, but
Right.
they can't execute it.
This comes down to like people watching the sport versus playing the sport, right?
Right.
Like you have good analysts who are good at analyzing, but like can you actually go on the court or the field and execute what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And it comes down to drilling and practice. Even before that, when you were in high school, you were high school quarterback. So I guess that kind of scratched that same itch of like seeing the play, the timing, guys
Yeah.
cutting across the field and just dropping the ball where they need it, right?
Well, I mean that goes back to when I was a kid, man. I've been playing quarterback since probably the age of what do we start high school in 14?
Yeah.
So I was a quarterback, probably 5-6 years before that, you
Mm.
know, and I've been doing that for a long time. But that was my first passion, man. My football was everything. Me growing up, from the age of like 10 through probably my freshman year in college is when I really decided to give it up because my grades were suffering with the engineering a little bit.
Right.
But that was everything, man. I was like I was just known for being the quarterback who always put in the extra work. Like you talked about earlier, the relentless practice.
Right.
And I was always dragging teammates out to practice more and more, even on, after practice, take them down to the field by my house, just getting in that extra work. I think that's the key, man, is just, doing a little more.
Yeah, because you're competing against guys and everyone else is girls, depending on who you are. You have to have that edge. And the only way you're going to get that that transitional edge to quickly do something, you have to just drill it, like relentlessly, just maniacally just drill it till it becomes muscle memory, right?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about me is that it was never about like the competition, like you were talking about. It was more something in my own mind to where I was competing with myself. Like you could throw the perfect pass, and you're like, "Wow, that felt great! Like I threw that perfect pass." But can you do it 10 times in a row?
Right.
You know, can you do it with a guy who's standing in your face? Can you do it when you're on the move? Can you do it like, you know, moving to the left and to the right? There's so many variables that you could practice.
Right.
I mean, if that can't keep you busy, like I don't know what can.
That's
You
a
know what I mean?
fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
You know,
I feel like
it's the same thing in boxing, like we talked about. You know, you drill the jab, but you could drill that like 100 different ways.
100%. Because
Yeah.
even what Canelo caught Malingo with yesterday, he's drilled. I've seen so many times Canelo drill that combination.
Yes.
Uppercut to the body and then down to the body. He's drilled that for hours, right?
Yeah.
Game day, fight night, it's just automatic. Bah, 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 done.
I
Right?
mean, it comes down to basic patterns, though. Like and you know me, I study boxing. Like I've studied hours of Canelo fights, hours of Canelo training with his coach, and seeing
Right.
what they do. But one thing that Canelo always does with his coach, and you could see it on the pads. You know, a lot of guys are leading with the jab, leading with the 1-2, but you know, Canelo does a lot of work where he leads with the left hook. And he has such a good left hook that people are looking for that left hook, and once they think they have that solved, okay, here comes something else.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
100%. Because that combination it starts off with a left hook,
Right.
and then literally like a left hook to the body,
But
basically.
if you talk to a traditionalist, right, and which traditional typically doesn't work at the higher levels, they'll tell you you don't lead with a hook.
Right.
And to me, I'm like, well, why not? Because I see it working all the time.
Right. Yeah.
You could just get good at leading with the hook, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to keep their boxers out of harm's way, but again, it's like person needs to. Canelo is his IQ is so high. He
Yeah.
knows what would be the troublemaking problem if he gets in trouble, right? Like most people don't even know what the trouble is they're going to get into, right? They just learn, don't do it, and they just never did it, right? They never
Right.
question why. That's one thing I appreciate about you in general is like no one's going to say something to you without you ask them why, right?
Oh, I have to challenge. I was telling somebody at the job, and we could get into the job later, but
Yeah.
had an instant. I had a situation on the job where the guy was, you know, working off of a ladder, and he was tied off.
Right.
And I said to him, "Hey, you know, come down off that ladder. I need you to explain to me, like, is that yo-yo going to save you from hitting the ground if you fall off the ladder?"
Right.
And you know, we went through the numbers and calculated the fall distance and everything, and he wasn't. He was going to hit the ground even with the yo-yo. So I'm
Right.
like, you know, why are you even tied off? Like, what's the point?
Right.
Oh, because your safety person told me to do it. So I
Yeah.
said, well, why didn't you challenge them?
Right.
Why are you doing things just because people are telling you to do them? Like, you have to understand why you're doing them.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times when I learned in school, like I tell people, like when you were learning English, right? And you thought the purpose of you learning how to write and speak was just to get an A. I was like, no, it's supposed to be used as a tool after to persuade and manage things after. Like, so you want to start a company, you need to be a good writer. You need to be able to persuade people onto your vision. There's no way you're going to be able to do that or be a good coach if you can't communicate well, right? So your job is not to worry about getting the grade. It's making sure you understand how to communicate, right?
Right.
And like the power of writing is to help you organize your thoughts so that you can articulate yourself in a good fashion and you can even help yourself execute better, right? So
Which I I had never really kind of gotten into that writing thing. But recently I've been reading again, you know, getting into a little more reading again. And I've been noticing that my brain is just working a little faster from it.
Right. Yeah, just because you're following
Yeah,
it's drills. You're drilling
that's right.
things and you're going to execute faster because you're doing drills, right?
Hmm.
And so for you, I mean, after high school, you went to military college, which is most people have never been to
Yeah.
a military college, man. So what was that like?
Well, real quick, back to what we were talking about with the Canelo thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring it up is because I had a good point. You have a coach that's trying to keep their boxers to the traditional fashion,
Right.
and they're telling you, you don't do this, you don't lead with the left hook, you don't lead with an uppercut. You're already planting that seed in that fighter's mind that, okay, maybe that's not their style to lead with the left hook. That's great. But what about the guy who can lead with the left hook and can do it well?
Right.
Like now he's not even trying to prepare for that because the coach is telling him that this isn't okay, so I'm not going to prepare for something because it's not
People
effective.
do. Right.
But it is effective.
Right.
So I don't like coaches that say, I had a coach one time say, we don't throw right hooks in the gym. Like if you're a traditional orthodox fighter,
Yeah. No,
and
to that point is, I think the thought that a lot of coaches or teachers and parents do, the parents do this all the time.
Mhm.
They don't complete their sentence, right? But coach should be like, I don't train you right now to lead with the left hook because of the skill level that you're at. You're not
Right.
ready for it. But once your footwork is good, everything else is clean. I'm going to teach you now how to, diversify your game and add that as a tool in your
Yeah.
tool belt, right?
But that's what I think is lacking in a lot of the coaches is that they only get to that level of they don't know how to tell the fighter, like you just said, like let's hold off on this for now.
Right.
Like this isn't a bad thing. We can do it, just not yet.
Right.
Like,
Well, I think,
and not until we master these little simple things first.
I think it's a bit of an impatience to finish the thought, right? It's just
Yeah.
easier to tell you, no, don't do it, right?
Right.
Then I'm gonna have to now sit and explain myself. And again, that comes back down to communication. That comes back down to the power of learning how to communicate your thoughts in
Yeah.
full fashion, right?
I also think it comes down to a lot of coaches are very lazy,
That too.
and they don't want to improve or enhance their game,
Correct. Yeah, 100%. And then you find the few that do that, and they have a pupil who also is engaged in improving themselves. So they're
Mhm.
both improving while they're doing the training. The coach is getting better at coaching, and
Yeah.
the student is getting good at executing, right? So
Facts.
and those are the outliers. Those are the people I didn't even watch. Really, I watched the highlights, but just based. And my friend texts me at like 1 o'clock. I'm like, listen, this is easy work for Canelo. I already knew that Canelo was going to win the fight just because
The guy actually, he did impress me a little bit, but like you said, it was easy work for Canelo,
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's wild because Canelo getting older now, I pay attention to different things when he fights now because, he's not that, even going up in 168 now, he's not knocking a lot of guys out.
right.
So now I'm looking at, like, what does this guy do to keep the pressure on people and stay safe,
Well,
Like,
I think adding that defensive mindset to his game, I think it really made his length of his reign a lot longer because he doesn't have to rely on knocking the guy out. He just needs to piece him up and just not get hit, right?
right.
And his head movement is legendary. I don't think anyone right now has as clean a head movement. Like they might draw out the way, but Canelo isn't running from you. He's literally in front of you, and still you can't hit him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's guys who have like better head movement, but not as effective.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's very effective with it, you know, like he does it while he's in the range of fire,
Right.
you know.
And you can't tell somebody unless you're in the
Yeah,
range, so but you also getting risk getting clipped. But like I said, you're so used to being in that range that I don't see it. Like, to your point, people got good headman, but his own isn't flashy
yeah.
only. It's very effective. It's
Well,
setting something up.
I mean, another guy with good head movement, he just doesn't really do it a lot, like to counter and everything. Tyson Fury has good head movement, but he uses it a lot, like for feints and
Set his job move, yeah.
and throw the guy off balance. Yeah, I mean, he has very good head movement, effective head movement, but he doesn't use it the same.
Yeah, agreed. I thought big guy, he moves left. He's a slickster
He
that
is.
one.
I'm excited for that fight.
That's gonna be a good one between him and Usyk. That's legendary.
It is.
There are a couple of fights coming up, man.
There is. There's a couple of really good ones, man.
Yeah, looking forward to that. But let's jump back to that point. So, what was like being at military school, going to school in Virginia?
Yeah, it's crazy because I had when I was a junior in high school, or was it? I was a senior in high school, and I had just randomly had family at my game. One guy, Greg Robertson, was at my game, and my uncle's wife's mother, he's dated her for a long time, and he graduated from Virginia Military Institute back in 1965.
Wow.
And he had just happened to be at my game that day for some random reason. Don't have no idea why. And had like my best game that I ever had as a quarterback. I mean, I threw like 5 touchdowns that game,
Nice.
400 or 500 yards. I ran for a touchdown. And he had said to my mother in the stands, is Scott interested in going to a military college? And I had never even thought about it. Like I didn't even know that it really even existed, right? So my mom said, no, not really. At that time, I was looking at schools, like Division I, AA schools. I had some pretty good schools recruiting me, like Syracuse and Boston College, but I was a little too short for those programs.
Yeah.
They were quarterbacks. They're typically looking for like 6'3" guys.
And that's changed now. Like they're struggling with the Lex now, but I guess back in the day that was.
Well, no. Here's the thing, though. Yeah. I was a pocket passer, though.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right. So now the shorter guys are a lot more. They're mobile. They can run around. So a traditional pocket passer, they're looking 6'3" to 6'5".
Gotcha.
And long story short, I had wound up going to visit the college with him, and I loved it. I loved the school. Like, it was crazy, bro. It was, you're waking up at 6 o'clock. You got to be in formation. Right. You got to march down to breakfast. Classes start at 7. Yeah. Whole day of school, military training, But to me, it was like, I was like, let me do something different for college, I don't want to just go and have this traditional college experience. I want to learn something a little bit outside of that with the discipline and kind of like sacrificing your time too,
Right. Yeah.
A lot of multitasking.
No, I mean, like, it's a highlight of like one of the things when I was doing my research. It's like a lot of people don't have that on their resume. They went to our military. They get a civil engineering degree, but also you don't get that going to a military school only. You get discipline, regimented work. All of that is something that doubles down in your career later on. But like, to most times, people don't choose. They usually get thrown into it, or they're like being told.
That's right.
But for you, which is interesting, is that you actually chose. Like, I actually like this, and I want it. Yeah.
No, it's crazy because I've been known to do stuff like that. Like, even in high school when, kids were getting punished for doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing, right? Like, hazing or whatnot. And I would just go jump in and join the party. Like,
Right.
let me get punished and worked out with these guys, you know? Like, let me
Right.
see if you could break me down.
Right.
And the coaches in high school, like they knew, like they could not get me.
Right.
One funny story. We had a coach, and I wish he was here to tell the story,
Yeah.
but this was our junior year in high school, and he was like a runner, you know, a marathon runner. And he had gotten in trouble for some crazy shit. We stole the golf carts or whatever.
Right.
And he had said he stole the golf carts and crashed them. But he said, you guys are going to meet me at 5 a.m. tomorrow, and you know you're going to run with me.
Right.
And he had thought that
Break you.
for some reason that you know he was going to break me and my friend Kern, who you know was the running back. We used to go run the beach for fun every morning before football practice. And, you know, we're like 3 miles in, and this coach is like, you know, man, you guys are keeping up. I'm really surprised, you know?
Right.
Because, you know, football players, they train sprints.
Right. They don't train 3 hours running.
And we're like 3 miles in, and the coach is saying like, you know, you guys aren't even breathing hard, he said.
Right.
So I looked at my buddy and I said, all right, let's turn it up on him now. And bro, we put the pace on this guy. You know, when I was in high school, I was running, I think it was like a 5-10 mile.
Right.
You know, I was a good runner.
That's
not a great runner, but a really good runner. And you know, we put we put miles on this guy. I think the last 3 miles, because we did 6.
Right.
We held under 6-minute miles the whole time. And the coach went back to the other coaches and was like, that's the last time I'm ever going to bring these guys out for a run. Because I think we almost ran him into a heart attack.
Well, you know what? It's funny. David Goggins have this story when he was going through SEAL team training. Yeah. And he's like, normally you have the bullets over your head. And he's like thinking to himself that all the persons who came back to train these SEALs know that they had this moment where they broke. And he's like, what happened if I just don't break? And I'm excited about the thrill of trying to break me. And he's like, listen, we're going to hold the bullets up in the air, and we're just going to be like, you can't break me. Right. And he's like, he literally see the soul fall out of these guys around him who's trying to break the team or his team, when they were like, yeah, come on, bring more.
I've seen that stuff at the, you know, I saw that stuff in high school, and then, you know, because I was very blessed to have really good coaches, and they did train us very, very hard. Yeah. But I saw that in the military college because, you know, speaking of the Goggins thing, my roommate, who, you know, it is a SEAL commander now, actually. Nice. And, you know, I went into the Navy doing the SEAL stuff, but wound up getting that medical disqualification. But, you know, I've been a part of that training, and I saw, like you just said, guys that when they're ready to quit, you know, that there's just no soul left in them.
Right. You know? Yeah. No, they took the soul, and that's who he was trying to get you guys at, but he got drunk.
Yeah, well, that, you know, that's the thing. And I try to tell people too, like, was speaking to a guy at the gym last week, and he's interested in doing not Navy SEAL stuff, but special operations in the military. And I told him, you know, like, people say it's not physical, it's mental. And I say, well, really don't believe that, because the better shape you're in physically, the less mental demand it's going to have on you. Right. So you have to show up in shape, you know, like these guys that are making it, you know, don't get it twisted. They're in very good shape. Right. They're not the Olympic guy, right? But that's the thing that I had when I was in the training. I was never first in anything, but I was always in the top 5.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even when you hear the guys that get through the whole SEALs training, you know, they were more rounded. Like, he might have a guy who's a good swimmer, but he's not a good runner. It's going to show up, right? You have to be really good solid at everything, you
You
know?
have to be all around, kind of like, I wouldn't say middle of the pack guy, but you
Right.
should be like the front of the middle of the pack in
Got it.
everything. And then you're going to be good.
Yeah. When you start holding yourself to that standard, you know everyone kind of knows where they're weak at. And
Yeah.
then most people kind of shy away from their weakness. They never actually double down on figuring out how to fix it, you know? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think overall in life, like everybody is guilty of that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I'm guilty of that. Like, I know I could be doing certain things in my job that would make me a better superintendent,
yeah,
but I don't. You know what I mean? And I'm starting to try and implement certain things.
right.
It's all about really what you care about and how much you can balance and manage.
Yeah, I mean, like the Japanese have this thing they call Kaizen, which means
Hmm.
continuous improvement, right? Like you're never perfect, right? You aim for perfection, but you're never
Facts.
going to actually get there. But if you don't aim for it, you'll never push yourself hard enough to be better than you were before, right?
Yeah.
You know, so what made you want to do civil engineering and construction and management minor in?
Bro, that's a funny question because again, just like I didn't know about the military college,
Right,
I had showed up to VMI, which by the way I didn't get into
right.
out of high school. I was denied
Mm,
because my grades were not that great in high school. I was, just weren't terrible either.
right.
But um I was more about playing football and
Yeah, of
had
course.
my mind on that. But when I showed up, they they make you pick a major, declare a major your first day that you're there. And I had said to the academic people, like, I really don't know what I want to study, but what's going to guarantee me a job and what's going to, make not the most money, but solid money.
Right.
And they said, well, some type of engineering for sure, because VMI has civil, electrical, and mechanical.
Gotcha.
And looking back on it, I wish I would have chose mechanical.
Okay. Don't let the other civils hear you said that.
No,
I'm
no, I
teasing.
would say that to civils too, bro,
I know. I'm
because,
teasing you. I'm teasing.
just with my job now,
Yeah.
once you learn how to bring foundation out of the ground,
Right.
I mean, it's really not that hard.
That hard. Yeah.
But, the mechanical stuff, the MEP stuff, which I'm heavy on my job that I'm on now, this hospital
Yeah.
job, I really do believe if you're solid, if
Yeah.
you're solid in that stuff,
Yeah.
you could be very successful running projects because
So yeah, I like
there's a
that.
lot of little components involved in it.
It's a whole different world. I think if I went back, I would have done electrical.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I never really had, and electrical is great because this job I'm on now, like we're very big on, we're new switchgear, new busway, all
Yeah.
that, but like electrical touches everything.
That's the thing. I think it's to me, as it comes to understanding,
Yeah,
because it touches everything and everything gets impacted by it. Like once you understand that, it kind of opens up everything else, right? Like
sure.
you have to understand concrete foundations, all that is. Even when you're pouring pads for these electrical equipment, at the end of the day, it's serving the electrical equipment, right?
That's right.
So yeah, if I had to go back, I would have definitely. I mean, my Connet experience as an intern at Connet helped.
Yeah.
It definitely helped, but I would
Well,
have.
here's the good thing though. Like you don't have to go back to
You
learn it.
don't.
You can learn it now.
Trial by fire. That's what I do. That's
Not even trial by fire. I mean now, and I know you do it because I know you. You can learn it all on YouTube.
100%.
And then you're involved in the project where you get to review drawings and designs and everything.
Yo.
And you're smart enough to like put them together. Um, there's classes out there, foremen, you can pick their brains, right?
I hang around the electrical foremans the most on my job. And that's the guys that I call the most times. And then, of course, YouTube University is key. Being in, like I said, being in a place where you're doing the work, actually every day dealing with, like I just had to deal with a layout problem in my job on Arlington, Texas, where they were putting the switch gear and all the conduits going into the ATSs just wouldn't work with the existing location where you're showing it on the drawing. There's just too
Right.
much banks of conduit. So we had to, we went through, do we mirror the room the opposite way? If we did that, we have to know disassemble the battery racks and rearrange it, or do we just switch the ATSs? It was the whole, like, that whole experience you're learning along the way, because you deal with the electrical engineer, you deal with the electrical foreman. They're coming at it from different angles, and you got to play referee, right? You got to make a decision that makes sense, that everyone is going to be bought onto, So
yeah.
So you jumped in there, you did civil engineering, did your mine and construction management.
Yeah, that was it. And I, to be quite honest, my first year in college with the civil engineering was because I was playing football at the same time too. It was an absolute disaster.
Yes.
I had never even taken calculus or pre-calculus in high school. So I'm looking at these calculus things, and, to me, it was, I was like, what am I getting myself into here? So, I wound up taking pre-calculus that summer and then had to retake some calculus courses. I made it through,
Yes. Yeah.
Rough curriculum.
Well, when you recognize, like, all right, this thing is challenging me, I feel like people get challenged on things like they fail, and then it's like they fall. Like, what is it that? What's your recovery process of, like, all right, I'm not good at this, I failed this. Like, what's the next move you make after that to, like, get going again?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, we're talking about school here.
Yeah.
I would have a much better answer when it comes to, like, fitness or boxing or something. But because we're talking about school, looking back, I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in it.
That's
but
fine.
I knew that I had to put more time into it because I wanted to graduate. I wanted to get the degree.
Yeah, but you could afford it too. Like, I find people like civil engineering, this is too hard. Let me go and just do liberal arts or something else that's an easier career path. Like, what made you?
Oh, and that's what. And well, here's the answer. Actually, right? I made a sacrifice because all the other football players that studied the engineering dropped out.
Gotcha.
They went and did exactly what you just said. They went to another degree.
Right.
I quit football.
Gotcha.
And stuck with the engineering because I was like, I'm not going to the NFL from VMI.
Right.
Right. I need to get this degree. I don't want to be getting some liberal arts degree where, begging for a job, making, getting lucky to make $100,000 somewhere.
Right.
But, like, I'm not knocking the liberal arts degrees, but, in my opinion, like, if you're going to go to school, I think you should, pursue some type of a challenging degree. You're paying a lot of money for this stuff.
It's too expensive to not pick up something that is going to be worth, it's just an efficiency thing. Like, the one-on-one you spending, you should pick up something that is going to be worth that amount of money you're spending. Like, for your own good, for your own sake. Why put your money into something that's not going to give you back returns? No business would ever do that, right? And
well, it was wild too, because to me it was always a backup plan. Like, let me get this degree so I have a backup, because I knew when I graduated I wanted to go down the Navy SEAL route. So when I had graduated, I jumped right into the Navy, and I went into that SEAL training. It's a good thing I got the degree, because when I had that medical disqualification,
right,
a lot of these other guys, they were going back to working at Walmart. And I was like, I have a civil engineering degree. I could go make money.
Right. Yeah, no, that was good though. So you you left school, you got your degree, and you said, I'm going into the SEALs training. The SEALs training, I mean, that's probably the hardest level of training that most people would even think of trying. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the whole thing because they put you through the physical exams, and they found something on an EKG that disqualified me to do the deep sea diving, that was required. but then they kind of gave me the option to get out or stay in.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not sticking around the Navy.
Right.
I'm not going to make $35,000. Like I could go out and make some money, So that's when I came out of the Navy, I was a little bit lost on what I was going to do.
Mm.
And I had found this company in McLean, Virginia, that was looking for civil engineers to go work in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So I took that job and I went and worked in Afghanistan for a year, building parts of the military bases out there. And that turned into a little bit of a wild job. Then I forget how did I get linked up with Turner? There was somebody who graduated from VMI that worked for Turner, and I think I was just talking to him on Instant Messenger or something while I was over there in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey man, they're interviewing over here in New York. Why don't you send your resume?" So I did, and Turner asked me to interview when I was home on a vacation, like the day after Christmas it was, I think, and they gave me an offer. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to go back to Afghanistan now.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So what was it like working? In Afghanistan, building?
It was crazy because all this stuff that we're accustomed to,
Right.
you working with Tishman or me working with Turner,
Yeah.
like there is safety doesn't exist.
Right.
I remember, we had to do some torch down roofing system on these 3 barracks that we built out there.
Yeah.
And in the specifications, they wanted John Mansville to come out and do it. And John Mansville was like, I'm not coming to Afghanistan to do this stuff. Then the next best option was a qualified installer. So they sent me to get training at John Mansville to become a qualified installer of this torch down membrane. And then I went back out to Afghanistan and had managed these local labor guys on how to install this roof. And these guys were torching the membrane down in sandals.
Right. Yeah. It's a different world outside of
Could you imagine what would happen if Turner Safety or the Department of Buildings saw a guy torching down in sandals?
You shutting that job down. You going home. Everyone's going home.
It was wild. Safety was wild, man. Job built ladders, climbing up the side of the building.
Everyone was going home.
You name it.
Yeah, everybody was going home.
Are you there? I think your computer's frozen.
Yeah. Fucking internet. Back in the building.
You good? Nice.
Yeah, I'm good. My internet is being chopped. All right, hold on. Let me see. All right, so we're back in action. I'm just gonna chop it together. It's an easy fix with the editor.
No, that's cool.
All right,
You're good with that editing, No, we were talking about safety in Afghanistan. That was it.
Yeah, hold on. Let's get back from that.
A lot different than what we're used to.
Yeah, you can only imagine third world countries and construction is completely different. But I'm sure you got the job done. It's what we do.
Yeah.
So
listen, construction from New York City to Houston is completely different.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely is. So let's go back to that moment. So you finished the release, you went over at Turner Construction, started working there as a superintendent. What almost superintendent work or being a super? Now you're a senior super that you like the most.
The biggest thing that I like about it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the position, but I like the fact that, you get to move around and see different types of projects, and you get to see the life cycle of the project, and, things are developing from demo all the way to completion of the renovation.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we were in a training where was it? 2 weeks ago, there was some type of a procurement training. We just recently won a bunch of healthcare work here in Houston, and they're looking for people in procurement because they can't get contracts out the door quick enough.
Right.
And he had asked, is anybody interested in procurement? And nobody raised their hand.
Right.
And he's like, okay, anybody care to share why? And no one answered, but I had said, to me, it just seems a little bit monotonous, like you're kind of doing the same thing all the time. You're seeing the same paperwork, the same documents, the same forms for every project, every contractor, like nothing changes.
Right.
But as a superintendent, like, things are changing by the day.
By the day. That's a fact. Yeah. Every day is a new day, and every new day is a new problem you got to solve.
Yeah. And not just the problem solving, but the progress, the progress of the job.
Yeah, because you actually are building, it's more different than like administering the project. You're actually building the job with the person, physically building it, right? So
I also like the fact that you're out there interacting with people. You're not sitting in an office.
Right.
I like the fact that you are obligated to make decisions, and sometimes decisions on the spot.
Very, very similar to like being a quarterback in the income money, right? You got the guys, everyone's skilled at their position, and then you're the person they're coming to make the calls, right? This is
Hello?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, yeah, no, and you were saying very similar to being a quarterback.
Right.
And it's funny that you say that because, now I think I've been a superintendent for, 10 and a half years. And it takes time to become a good superintendent and experience. And now that I am starting to like come into my own a little bit, I've always been a good superintendent, but now I'm becoming a little better with schedule management and stuff that's required for a senior superintendent,
Right.
I'm starting to feel that like this is like being a quarterback. And the better you get, the better you get at being a superintendent, and the more skills that you have, the more of a leader you can be on the project, because it really does take like you have to have the knowledge of building these jobs to be a good superintendent.
Yeah.
Like you could get all the stuff done on a daily basis, like putting in your permits and your safety requirements and everything. You could be a good superintendent and still do that stuff. But, in order to be the leader on the job, you have to really understand, what the trades have to do with each other and how to organize them together.
That right there is key. And I recognize that, or my job was in Minneapolis. I was out there with a senior project director, but from the field side. And you also, as a Navy guy, came out the Navy, used to box too, and also, just running the work. And we would have quiet time, right? Like in that quiet time, it's literally just combing through the drawings, page turn again and again. And you're just looking at the drawings and looking for areas of scope gap, or like, all right, what's coming up next? Not just 2 weeks from now, but like a month from now.
That's right.
We need to coordinate and get figured out. And once your coordination is tight, the day of execution looks like no one really planned it, because everyone's just doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
But all the planning and all the pre-planning, all the meetings made it look flawless. Because we've had generator picks where we're putting down belly tanks. These belly tanks carry 12,000 gallons of these. Generator enclosure has the generators inside, right? And by the time the day of execution, it's just buttery smooth. Everyone knows what they need to do. Doing it, it's getting done, right? But if you don't pre-plan, and like I said, the difference between a regular super or a starting super is that you get tasks, right? I need you to open the gate. I need you to just do this or all of this trade. But as a senior super, your job now is to be tasking people to do things, right?
That's right.
And coordinating. You're the ship captain at this point. You're the guy that everyone's coming to with. What's the plan? We had to see where we're going. So.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, I had asked you about, the senior super you're talking about, you had said he's in his 50s.
Well, no, yeah, he's in his 60s now. But
So,
yeah,
I mean, think about right now, I'm 39 years old, right?
right,
Think about another 20 something years of experience running jobs,
right,
right? I mean, the amount that I learned in 10 years without even having any foundational knowledge.
right.
Imagine how much you could learn in the next 20 years with good knowledge as the foundation.
Yeah,
You know, if you're paying attention, because there's guys that turn 60, and we've seen them at Citibank,
yeah.
60 plus years old, and they're useless.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, people go to the gym, right? And then you have the gym outliers who are throwing off 4 plates on the bench press, right?
Right.
And then you have guys who can barely bench a plate on each
Right.
side. And the length of time that they've been at the gym is probably comparable, or if not longer, than some of these other guys. And it's just training and being intentional with your training.
Yeah,
some people
that's right.
come to work and they're not intentional with
That's right.
what they.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, man, I see one of the biggest problems in our industry, though, is these companies like we work for. They take these young guys out of college and they want them to be the ship captain from the get go. And then you know, how is that possible, right? You know, how are you going to take in the military an entry level lieutenant and tell him, hey, or ensign in the Navy, you're the ship captain?
Will never happen,
right? You're in charge of the whole fleet.
What happens is like, and I wish I just didn't give out titles so easily. It's just like, you come to this degree, and then because you're administratively strong, doesn't mean that you know how to lead. It just means you know how to administer, right? And to lead, you need to know how to build, right? And then there's a big gap now that's coming. Typically, back in the day, someone who is new or novice would spend a lot of time in the field and then come back to the office and run the office work.
That's right.
No, what they do is like they let the field guys do field work, and they let the office guys do office work. And then there's a big disconnect between the office and the field guys, right? Huge resentment between the two, because here's this person running the job who has a budget, but he doesn't know how to build.
Right.
And so the things you should be prioritizing, which is going to move the job along, and instead of like, stepping over $10 to pick up $1, you know what is going to get you your job across the finish line. Like, this is what you need to focus on. And that's a problem with, or just in sports, if you focus on the wrong thing, you're going to lose. You need to know what to focus on, and that's where the experience comes in.
I like to call it stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies.
Yep.
I see it all the time. Focusing on these things that are just not important. Well,
that's the thing, that lack of understanding what is important comes from not having good coaching. You know what we like if you become a doctor, you have a residency program. Like, you follow a senior person.
True.
Good, and has been proven to be good, right? Until you get your leg in, right? Same thing with a ship captain, to your point, or a co-pilot. He follows a senior, good, well-executed legend in the field, or doing what they're doing, till it's your turn.
That's true. Yeah.
And you know it's going to become your turn because this person's training you, and you know they're training you with the intent of you running something yourself, right? I find like in our industry, they just kind of throw you in, right? And unless you make it your own and seek out like these senior persons to train you, there isn't like a robust requirement. You could literally be there for 10, 15 years and don't know how to build a job. It's
it's very hard to find good ones too. And sometimes you have good ones who they're really good at their position, but they're terrible at teaching the younger people.
That's also a next hurdle that you have to jump to. Yeah, because you have guys who are good at doing the work or not good at coaching.
That's right.
So it happens. But yeah, if you had to say that I wouldn't say that's probably one of the biggest cabins we have to jump across and during like moving from no, we're in like middle management, right? You're not
Yeah,
the new guy, but you're not the oldest guy in the job, right?
that's right.
And so that you try and making it your own, but yeah, it's tough. It's always very tough. For me, I made it as such that I always went to the supers meetings. And those are the guys building the shop.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really smart because that's where they talk about the work that needs to happen,
100%.
right? They're not talking about the change order that is held up in the owner's court. That's gonna have to be approved anyway for the job to be done, right?
Right, right.
They're wasting so much time talking about which toilet paper holder they want to pick
Right.
instead of talking about the work that has to be done to get the job done.
Yeah, I know when you come with that field energy and experience of what needs to get prioritized, because like further upstream, they're focused on these things, but they're not seeing the clock and being burnt out at the end, right?
Right.
And like, how many guys you're holding up? You're holding up the electrician, you're holding up carpenter, you're holding up the job, and also there's a phantom cost they don't know, which is the phantom cost of breaking the momentum in the team.
That's a fact. Yeah, the
Right?
momentum is huge.
Huge. You have all these guys prioritized and focused in, and though you just take the momentum out of the job again, it's hard to get guys to refocus on it. Especially if you're not a trade that's living on your job and they're going to a next job, and the next job has a good momentum, you just get put on the back burner. Now you have to
Yeah.
go back at guys, emailing guys, setting up meetings to drag them back, bring their attention back to your
And
job.
sometimes it's tough to get those guys back.
100%. They're
You
good.
know?
They're gone. They're
Yeah.
you got them when you ain't getting them back. So yeah, that's always I think right now different. Everyone's like focused on AI and all that fun jazz, and it's going to do remarkable for the administrative side. But I think ultimately the biggest risk to construction in general is that gap in knowledge leaving the industry. And the way they're going about giving out titles in the sense of, back in the day, a project manager had years of experience. Like,
Oh, no, dude, now
you've been in
you're
this
just a project manager right out of college now.
right? Like, you get to 8 PM in 2-3 years is like, not because a person's administratively strong, needing all to build a job, and they're burning resources. Like they're making calls that are not the call to make, right?
Yeah.
And you're having guys, spin the wheels and actually generating more change orders because you don't know what you're doing.
That's and the other thing that bothers me is like these are construction companies,
Right.
and the main focus should be on construction.
100%. That's
not on paperwork and all this other shit.
yeah, it happens. So I think to me is like
work in place.
That's and the way I see it, if someone or you see a vision of something, it's all my jobs. I keep it field focused. Like I do all my paperwork after the workday or at the early parts of the workday or even on the weekends so that we can focus on building the job, right? Like you should not field question because you're preparing a change order, right? Only other time that field questions don't get answered is because you might be running a meeting at the moment with the client. At that point, we can get answered after, where you super can jump in, but the priority is the field. That's how you build the job. That's how you get off the job. That's how you reduce change orders. That's how you reduce the punches. That's how you keep your quality high. That's how you make trades want to come back and work with you because they realize you're prioritizing the needs of how you actually build the job.
Yeah. And not only that, that's how you deliver the job to the client on time.
100%.
100%. Sometimes you have to proceed at risk and not spend 4 weeks to figure it out in the office.
Yep. You write that email, you let them know you're going at their own risk because you know you can take that position and feel comfortable it's going to work itself. Again, like you're 10 yards old and you're four down. Do you throw the ball in? Do you kick the ball in? Like, where it comes down to the number of points on the board. Like I always feel like our industry is like we're like intellectual athletes, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're paid on our ability to do or execute like an athlete. An intellectual athlete gets paid on his knowledge or her knowledge and
Yeah.
ability to execute on that knowledge, right?
That's right.
So that's it. But when it comes down to like like coming out of construction, in your free time, you coach boxing, you do lifting, and you play pool. So
man, that's not all I do.
I know those are the three ones that I know, but you can add others too.
No, I would say, right now it's definitely the boxing.
Yeah.
It's definitely the pool. It's definitely the lifting. Also, running, swimming, cycling.
Yeah, because you're training to do like Ironmans also too. So
Well, I've done a couple of triathlons, and I did a half Ironman before. A couple of Olympic and sprint distances. Like that's the thing. I just like to mix it up and not become like a robot to one thing.
That's big. That's key because that gives you rounded talent. And then you also moved from NYC to Texas. That was a big one for you too.
I'm in Houston now, but the one thing about that is it prevents you from becoming proficient in one thing. If you're trying to balance so many things, it prevents you from becoming, the mastery in one thing.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, the thing that we are trying to master, like I said, is that we're intellectual athletes. So you're doubling down and becoming the best project superintendent, senior superintendent, because that doesn't. Everything else might be moving around it. It might be focused on boxing, but then go to powerlifting for a bit of pool. But the one constant is that you're going to always be working in construction. That's
true.
Running the work, right? So that's really the skill that you're developing. No, that's a constant. But everything else is complementary to that. So like right now I'm doing jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys, they're training 2-3 times a day. Right?
I know. No, that was the same thing with boxing. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's what they want to become proficient at because they want to make a career in jiu-jitsu, right? And I get that because when I'm at work trying to figure out construction problems, they're throwing up leg locks and practicing for tournaments.
I know.
But that's their constant. Everything else is not there. It's just complementary,
Well, it's crazy, and I could speak of it with pool. These guys that are good pool players, like the top guys in the area here, they don't even have a job. Right. Never mind the other hobbies, the boxing and this and that. Like these guys, they don't work. They hardly have any money, and all they do is play pool. And I've gotten to the point now to where I'm beating a lot of these guys, and they're kind of like, how are you doing this with doing all this other stuff? So to me, it makes me wonder, like, let's say I drop all this other stuff.
Right.
Where can I get, how good can I get in the game? But I don't think it's as secure of a career. So that's what prevents me from doing it,
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it comes down to the passion and the drive for the product. Like, you don't, it's not like if your job position was say, in compliance and it's just paperwork after paperwork and you're not being challenged, you're not excited about the work, and then pool gives you that excitement, then it would be much easier to be like, you know what, I'm not going to die doing this. Yeah. But I think with construction, especially in the role that you're in, it brings some self-sufficient or efficiency that you like.
Yeah, it does.
And it's enough that you wouldn't want to just jump off and just play pool 100%.
Well, to be really honest, it does pay well.
Right.
And these other things, they wouldn't be able to match the pay and the benefits and,
right. There's
I, I'm,
that. Yeah.
well, for me, it's more of that, like the security of that. And I'll be honest, like, construction is not like my passion, but it pays really well. And it's a job where I don't have to like be super bored doing it in order to make a good living,
Right.
you
Okay.
know?
I mean, that's an honest answer. And everyone,
And on top of that, there is a lot of potential for even more money and growth in construction because you know how much some of these senior directors and ops
yeah.
managers are making.
Yep. I was looking at it's funny. I brought this up to one of the clients or the guys I was talking to on the podcast. He owns some construction book, and I'm like, people like look up construction. And I'm like, you can go on LinkedIn right now and look for senior construction manager at
Yeah.
this guy. The pay range is like $250 to $300, and people will be in awe that you can pull in that type of money in construction. But most people don't really see. They only see the corners on the road, and they don't know like the level of difficulty that goes into coordinating, management, all of this to this point where you're seeing cones on the road. So
Yeah, no, I mean, forget the cones on the road. How about the huge cranes that are hanging around the city,
right,
right?
right,
There's a lot of planning and risk involved in that, you know,
100%.
putting buildings up,
Yeah, no, it's all awe-inspiring.
stadiums, like
Yep.
these. It's not like we're building the AT&T store,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, 100%. Like some of the jobs that I'm on, like you lose low, they call it mission critical work. You're in it because you're in
Like
help.
you did the data center.
That 100%. You
That's a
can't lose
mission
low.
critical job.
100%. You can't lose low. I still do mission critical work. All my
Hmm.
work is mission critical because
Yeah,
it's challenging and it keeps the blood flowing, and you always have to be like, thinking through things 110%. And, at that point when it's like an athlete, like if you played NBA at the highest level, right? You
hmm
want to keep playing at the highest level as long as you can because everything else is just going to be too boring.
Oh
Right?
yeah. That's
Like,
that's for sure.
that's so when it comes to mission critical work, like, doing data centers, hospitals, that's like the creme de la creme of it, like
Yeah.
you really are like dealing with the possibility that your decision can really cause catastrophic problems if you don't
Yeah.
through. So, and that's where the value comes because not everybody is built for it. You're
No.
interested in it. So,
And like you said, yeah, I know I do notice a lot of guys in our positions though that their whole life revolves around the work.
right.
They don't have any type of other hobbies or balance. That's not really what I want to be.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I like about yourself is that you have balance in the sense of you do your work, but you also have these outside activities that you also double down on and get very efficient at, right? Like all of us know fuck with supers that like they're great as superintendent, but if you ask them to jog around the hook,
Oh man,
they'll be blowing air.
dude, they can't even walk up the stairs.
Can't walk upstairs, right? Like,
Yeah,
everything else is I wouldn't say in shambles, but everything else is like put on the back burner to the point where the only way for me to have my wife, I don't know if the house and maybe like they put so
yeah,
much into that position itself that everything else is getting strained. And to your point, like that's not something I want for myself or you
no,
for yourself. And like, being your best bet, the best asset you have is your health.
that's right. I agree 100%.
You can't do anything without your health, right? And
Yeah,
too
that's
many
a
people
fact.
put so much emphasis on everything else but that, and then you lose that, everything else falls apart.
That's right, 100%. Now, to me, like you just said, that's probably the most important. Is it's not really about doing these things for just because I enjoy them or
Right.
the excitement, but I do them because I want to keep myself functional
Right.
and keep myself like and me, bro. I'm a big component of strength.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to be the winning the gold medals at the powerlifting competitions, because I think once you get to that level, you're doing more harm to your body than good anyway. Maintaining strength, as you get older is probably the most important thing you can do, because our bones deteriorate. And, why do you think old people shrink, right? The bone density.
Yeah, osteoporosis. You lose bone density, you lose muscle mass.
Yeah.
Losing bone density and muscle mass, you lose your ability to move around.
Yeah.
It's a vicious downward spiral if you think about it, because you're losing your bone density, you're losing muscle mass. Muscle mass is tied to your actual cardio, your cardio burn, or your ability to burn and metabolize sugar. You should hold on as much fat. If you're not holding on as much fat, I mean, your blood pressure is probably going to be great.
Yeah.
Your life, you're not going to have heart disease. Like, everything kind of just trickles in after you keep your...
Well, it all comes down to, and I know you're educated in this. I mean, when we were in high school, we learned truth tables.
Right.
Like if A is true and B is true, then we know, like, that's the same thing. Like if you want to prevent your bones from deteriorating, and you do this thing is going to prevent your bones from deteriorating.
Yep.
Well, then why aren't you doing it?
Very simple. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what, to me, like, training is for me right now. Like, it's not about a bodybuilding competition. Like I said, when you get to the highest level of bodybuilding or powerlifting, you're actually doing, in the long run, disservice to yourself. How many of these guys have crazy surgeries?
Forget it.
Surgeries for their heart because they were doing more like often the steroids or craziness, right? Like, at the end of the day, Ronnie Foreman can barely walk, but he was clocking 800 pounds.
And, even without that specific example, like it's, again, back to the truth tables.
Right.
In order to get to 700-pound deadlift, more than likely, you're not going to be able to run a mile at a pace that is considered a pace that's going to keep your heart pumping at a healthy beat.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, like you have to find the balance in those things.
Yep.
But I do think for you, like, I know you're doing jiu-jitsu and all. It doesn't hurt to jump on a program like once a year.
Yeah.
Like a strength program or
I still
even a powerlifting program.
Yeah. I find that my speed in my jiu-jitsu training, not only say I get away with it, but I can keep pace with I'm going to blue belt and purple belt just because I'm very athletic. Just by the
and you got strength,
and the strength makes a difference. Like, it really it's a difference maker. We see it in boxing too, but it's also there in jiu-jitsu. Like,
for sure,
there might be sometimes where I roll with girls and they have higher belts. It's hard to deal with strength if you're not a strong person. It's just very hard.
I could definitely see strength being more of a factor in jiu-jitsu than boxing.
It does, yeah. It makes a big difference because you have your hands on the person and you're fighting. Your way of controlling the person is not just your footwork and your speed, right? Like, you're actually physically controlling the person with your hands.
That's right.
Wrestlers.
Speaking of hands, I just recently implemented these, and I want to say you had them at one point in Citibank.
Yeah.
You had that one gripper.
Yeah, those are good.
Which one was that?
Fat grip.
No, not the fat grips. I have those.
Oh, you mean like the...
Yes.
Yeah, I have to look back. I still have it in my gym bag.
I know you do, because I bought these ones recently called the Captains of Crush grippers.
Yeah.
And I will say this, it's the only thing different that I have implemented in the last month. And I think just by doing that alone, 4 days a week, I've gotten my bench press back up to 315.
Yeah, because you're gripping the bar so much tighter, right?
Yeah, and also the stabilization on the wrist and everything with the bar, and I'm not doing anything different with my bench press training but just by doing those alone, I think everything feels just a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Well, grip strength wasn't that issue for you with deadlifts.
No.
But I guess
But
it
I
it's
but I
something
never
you
trained it though either.
gotcha.
I never specifically crushed things like now I got a commute that's, an hour and 10 minutes to the job site.
Right.
And, I'm just doing, you know, sets on the way.
I'm sure you already had power in Boston, but I'm sure you feel a lot more stability when you punch in the pads and all, right?
I definitely feel more like, I wouldn't say power, but more stick in the punch.
Gotcha. More thumb,
Like,
right?
yeah, definitely more like,
You're-
especially the body shots. Yeah,
Yeah, no, in fact, your wrist, like that's one of the things that is, you did chemistry, you did physics, is that
yeah,
you're strengthening each portion of the connected chain, and if you're strengthening your wrist, you can
that's
get
right.
more force output. Like
Yeah.
the force isn't bleeding off; it's going exactly where you want it.
And not only that, like, in a lot of exercises, it's your direct connection to that bar or that dumbbell. Like that is the first thing that's connected to that piece of equipment is your grip strength.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the start of the kinetic chain.
Yeah, I find that one of my cues different than like making the arch in my back or like
Yeah,
stress is grip the bar and like squeeze the bar,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
squeeze as tight as I can and try and get the chest up and just tighten in the back. But part of my thought process with a bench is to squeeze the bar as tight as I can.
That's right. Crush the bar.
So yeah, that's good, man. It's all about that getting that training in. I have one question I want.
Listen, that's the one thing for me is I hope that I can do as long as I live is be able to train.
Yeah, I mean that's me. I think that's one of the things that really let us connect when we were at cities. Like we saw people or see people in general who like I said proficient in a lot of things. Your health is like deteriorating, and the way you're going about eating them when you're just acting for a heart attack.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, and they don't know any better.
right. It's just like, take a little bit of time and just some training with just give you 10 years, 15 years of your life. Just
And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't
yeah,
take a lot.
I think the building the momentum is the hardest part for most people. It's like for us, we never stopped training. So there was
Right.
even if you did stop, it was maybe a month at most.
Yeah, and sometimes I do that on purpose.
Right. I think people literally have stopped training since they've been in college.
Yeah.
No, so like, no, their life is actually ballooned and taken up all the time. They literally can't see where I'm going to carve out time to
Yeah.
put this thing in. Like, where am I going to find the time? But you got to find it. You just need to just put it
I
in.
mean, bro, those are the people though that drive me crazy because, they have time for so
Everything
many
else.
other things that are way less valuable than training. They got time to go to the bar and drink and
Right.
they got time to, fulfill this whatever addiction that they have in their life, but they don't have time to go to the gym.
Right. Like I said, you got to prioritize it. You got to put, an emphasis of like,
Yeah.
this is what's going to happen. So if
Yeah.
you were 23 right now, or if you had a 23-year-old in front of you that you would like to impart some nugget of wisdom, what would it be? Like, what would you say to your 23-year-old self now, looking back?
Yeah, definitely two things. And I wish I would have done this when I was 23, but no one really took the time to teach it to me, but really to learn the value of saving money and, how to utilize money to make money for yourself. Definitely learn the money game at the,
Yeah.
compounding interest and everything like that.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think something like that is something you would learn in school, life
No,
lessons, but
it's not.
it's not. And then everybody has to play the money game. I don't care.
As a matter of fact, I would say forget 23.
Yeah,
I would say learn it when you're 15,
That's incorrect.
14, 15 years old. I think it's one of the first things that they should teach in high school and probably teach it every year.
That's fact. Like, everyone has to do taxes. Everyone has to save
Yeah.
for retirement. Everyone has to deal with buying a home. Everyone
Right.
has to deal with buying a car. Everyone has to deal with, learning this game, and no one gets started until they're out of college most times, right?
Yeah.
And they just kind of get. But I think that's intention. I think the intent is to leave it like that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
However, I'm starting to, not starting to. I've kind of always been my march by my own beat of the drum kind of guy, but like I never really. I've always been a big saver, but I never really knew what to do with the money.
After you save
You
it.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
This is
I wish I had more years of that.
Yeah, it's and the people who do, like the kids that have it in their family,
Yeah.
they know, like, they're saving to a goal. That happens even in my family, or like in families in general who've never had like a big investment focus early. Like, you're just told to save, but then you save and you're like, what do you save towards? Like,
Right.
like you got to turn that saved money into a cash producing asset, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be in stocks? Is it going to be real estate? But most people we're just told to save. And like, save for a rainy day is more of like a cultural thing to say than like save to buy real estate, right?
Well,
Like,
here's the thing. Like for me, yeah, like you just said, save for a rainy day. But save for a rainy day after you saved the first amount.
right.
Like that's your second savings. That's your.
Yeah, I mean, all these financial guys will tell you you have like, what, 3-4 months of your remain for mortgage saving, maybe investing. These, like, I'm not a financial advisor. I'll discredit, but for me, like,
Yeah.
it's hard for you to just do both, but you have to either. And then when you get this life equation, though, it's like, well, I have my recurring expenses and then I have my earned income. Luckily, I was in a career that allows for that spread, right?
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself in the positions that allows for those spread. You started early to get to this point. You have to taking up the mantle early to take on a hard degree. You have to make a decision to, like, respectfully, my football is good, but it's not good enough to be in the NFL. So I'm gonna pick something I'm gonna double down on that skill that's gonna pay after college, right? And you had to make these already calculated decisions early and make the right decisions, or to put me in a position where they earn income and what we spend, there's a spread, and you can use that spread to now invest, right? Like, so
That's right.
It says save the money, but you gotta earn money before you can save anything. Earn enough to have a spread to save.
And I see that a lot, man. I see a lot of these people who kind of look down and knock the jobs that we do, for instance.
Right.
Not like specifically me and you, but people that, work for a company.
Yeah.
They want to be entrepreneurs because they see all these videos about it on YouTube.
Right.
But I'm like, what are you doing to earn money while you're, fantasizing about this dream of being an entrepreneur?
Right.
Like, what are you doing to earn?
And there's different types of entrepreneurs, right? Like, we glorify the ones that basically, like, dropped everything and then made it out. And then we don't do the calculation on the percentage of people who actually make it out. If it was 100, it's maybe only 2
right
together and hit it big, right? What happened to the other 98, right? What happened to their life when it didn't work, right? So there's that. Then there's also the fact that you can be an entrepreneur and still work for an established company. I'll give you an example.
That's true.
American footballers, basketballers work for an established company. It's called NBA and NFL. They get
Mm-hmm.
paid a very high earnings, and they
Yeah,
use that to do things outside of the established work. They
that's
got to go
true.
to work on Christmas. They got to go work on Thanksgiving. They got to perform, and if they don't perform at their job function, head coach or quarterback or wide receiver, they get dropped or they get transferred, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's a reality. And a lot of guys leave their high earning jobs and they still didn't make 2 cents of it because they're making the money, but
yeah,
there's a spread between what they made and what they were spending, which is to your point, the money game, like learning that early. It's not just what you earn, but it's like how you can use it to earn for you, right? So,
yep,
yeah, so to me, I always tell people like, yeah, you could go like Michael Jordan in theory, could have went out and said, I'm going to start an establishment bigger than the NBA or make a next league. But he didn't. What he
yeah.
did,
He didn't. Yeah.
he played ball. He became very good at it. Then he
Well,
started his shoe line, and then he also someone approached him with business opportunities. Right? You
yeah,
watch the Air Jordan movie
yeah, yeah.
because
Great movie. Great movie.
he was Air Jordan. Someone came to him with an opportunity, and he
Yep,
makes more money off Air Jordan than he did even playing basketball. Right? So.
that's amazing.
But that's would you consider Jordan an entrepreneur at that point? Of course he would. But
Yeah,
did he start his own league? No, he started
yeah.
an established company. You know.
No, that's a good point. And, it goes back to, like you said, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm getting this message about reconnecting.
Okay, no, I'm hearing you.
And I see it in our job a lot. Like there's no point of reinventing the wheel,
Yeah.
like the wheel works. We don't need to reinvent it and do all these crazy things if the money's already there.
Yeah. The Formula One guys do that too. Like, I think about efficiency more than reinventing. Like I love seeing like the teams coming to the pit stop from the 90s to now. Like Ferrari was like 10 seconds in and out the pit. Now it's
Right.
1.2, right? How
Wow.
much time? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's getting crazy out there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So just think about. Actually, it's more like 1.8, but they're in the two.
No, it doesn't matter.
They're below 2 seconds.
Yeah.
From 10 seconds. Just think about like how much efficiency that took, like maybe 10, 15 years to get that efficient. But imagine how much time you have on the circuit. Just every time you have to do a pit stop, you're saving 8 seconds, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's wild.
So to me, it's like how efficient can I get with what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
that efficiency will give you that competitive edge to succeed in the things you're doing.
So even back to the 23-year-old, thing, I would just say, like we talked about, just investing into yourself with the health routines, some type of a strength routine.
Yep. Yeah.
Be smart about what you're doing. Like I see a lot of these cardio junkies where cardio is great and all, but it's probably burning your muscle mass and your bone structure.
Yeah, especially
faster than aging is.
Yeah, no, definitely the strength. Because what happens too, you think about, we can see it like over years, how muscle density and muscle strength changes as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
How your mobility changes due to that lack of muscle density. So if your body is tweening off the muscle, you have to fight to keep more muscle in your frame. You have to give your body a reason to stay muscular, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And keep your strength. What happens when you get older as an older guy? You lose your strength. So you didn't do anything different now when you were in your 20s or 30s. Maybe you stop training, which is the reason why it's tweening off so fast.
Yeah.
To me, it's like prolong that tweening off. It's going to happen. I just want to keep my strength as long.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we call surviving.
Right.
You're not just here, lasting until time runs out. Like survival is you putting in an effort to prevent that from happening.
Right.
Like you actually have to partake
in surviving.
Right? We're not expiring.
Right.
There's a difference.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Have
Have you jumped into the cold plunges yet?
I used to take very cold showers in the morning. I
Yeah.
still do, especially when I was in Minneapolis, but I haven't done a physical cold plunge before. Actually, I'm lying. I did a Tough Mudder and they had a cold plunge.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a 10-mile Tough Mudder and they had a cold plunge. But to me, it's like, it's very important, especially with the irritation that you get from like doing high intensity sports like jiu-jitsu or something else like
Yeah.
that. Like, I definitely need to invest in one and have it.
I bought one for the garage, man.
Yeah, no, I need it. Like,
I think I only paid like $1,200, and other than the house itself and the pool table, it's probably the best investment I've made in the last 2 years.
this is a cool one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get one. I plan on getting one. So my intent is to finish up renovating the home, get it really set up nice, and then I'm gonna set the gym up inside the garage because we have a sizable garage where you can do both entertainment and cheering. But then once that, I need a cold plunge
You
because
got to get it, man. I'm telling you, it feels.
especially for my toes and around my ankles and the knees, like
It'll help that. I used to get that from running.
right, exactly. So that's what I need it for. So and then you can train longer, train harder, get it done. So
the cold shower is good. It's just the water doesn't get cold enough.
That's the problem. And it doesn't, by the time it gets to your feet where most of my inflammation happens, it's not cold.
Yeah. Like I like the cold shower. I think it helps with more of your mood and your well-being.
Yeah.
But you got to get that water down, I think, below 50 to start getting the inflammation and everything.
Long. Yeah, I'm gonna work on it. That's my goal for 2024. But yeah, man, I appreciate you jumping on the pod, man. You're really tough. Anything else that I want anyone else to get on the pod is the ability to, like, when you dream and you plan, it's only supposed to help you execute better. That's where it actually happens, right? Like, there's a lot of talkers, there's a lot of planners, but there's very few people who execute relentlessly.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're one of those guys, so I appreciate it.
And with that being said, I am looking at doing, even more things coming up here in the next couple of years where I want to put that execution to the test. Like
Right.
I want to start getting involved in some masters boxing events.
Nice.
Some bigger pool tournaments. Some more money matches.
Nice. Well, listen, we'll be here for you. I'm going to support you all the way because, like I said, the world needs to know, people need to know about what it takes to execute, right? That's right. That's what we need. So thanks for coming on.
All right, my man. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk.
Later.